Welcome to the RS Nerd Herd podcast for Thursday, December 29th, 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Adam Baum, and in today's episode, the nerds review the major updates and changes we saw in Runescape for 2022. So, with that, let's jump into things. I'm thankful for all you guys joining us today. It's been a wonderful year for RuneScape and Gillinor. I hope you guys have had as much fun as we have here. Let's jump into things. Let's see how everybody's doing. We have a full cast today. So, Tony, how is it going? What have you been up to?
It's going very well. Just pretty much been working and grinding some bosses when I can on my days off, and thankful that the Christmas stress and all that stuff is out of the way.
Oh, yeah, by the way, it's just after Christmas and right before New Year, so happy holidays to everyone listening. Happy holidays to all of you on the podcast as well. Did you get any good drops while you were bossing?
I did actually. I did.
What did
Uh,
you get?
I got in the last 2 weeks. I got the second staff piece that for the tier 95 staff from Hard Mode Carapac, and then about 20 kills later, I got the third piece. So now I have a tier 95 two-handed staff that now I have to get like three or four other pieces to make it useful.
Well, congratulations on that. That's a big achievement. I think you're the first one in the on the podcast to get even one piece, much less all three of them. So, congratulations on that.
I play this game too much. I'll admit it.
Well, you're kind of the resident boss there. So, like, we're gonna be
Yeah,
looking to
yeah, yeah.
you for some of your opinions on the things that came out this year on the in the bossing categories of things. With that, we have Runestar. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Anything special going on? I know you've been doing. You were one of the Fresh Start World players we have going on. Are you still doing anything on there?
Yeah, yeah. I did some. I got some of the skills done to 99. I've got construction, herb lore. Almost gonna finish hunter, and I got a couple others that I'm gonna push through, like thieving. And I got 3 pets. The last pet I got was thieving, so that's kind of been my focus. I haven't really touched my main or my Iron Man too much, other than our Citadel meetups for the
For sure.
clan.
But by the way, I don't think we even mentioned that we've actually started a RS Nerd Herd, a clan. So we got a Citadel going. It's tier one right now. It's just members of the show. But if anybody wants to join, feel free to post in the comment section of a video or message one of us in game, and we'll feel free to get you added in. We're starting from scratch though. We decided to. None of us had clans, so we decided it'd be fun to just start up our own. So if you like to get some free bonus experience or yeah, I guess bonus experience from the Citadel, feel free to join. Another member of our little crew in the Citadel, Kelly. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thanks. How are you?
Doing all right. I heard that you've been working on a series for YouTube from Fresh Start World. How's that series going? Your Dungeoneering journey?
It's almost done. I hope I can finish it before Fresh Start is over, but I haven't been playing Fresh Starts in a little bit, so we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll definitely be looking out for more videos. You guys should definitely check those out. We'll post them in like the a link to the channel in the description below or somewhere, so you guys can follow any of those videos if you like them because they're really fun. We have a good time joining her on her dungeoneering adventures. And finally, how are you doing today, Spider?
I'm doing well, thank you. I've just been kind of doing real IRL stuff the past couple weeks. Not really gaming that much. Just logging in, trying to daily put my ports missions out. My hardcore account finally got to the final zone of ports, so I'm just working on slowly going through that. It's one of the most annoying zones to get to though, because like you fail probably 75% of the voyages you send out when you first get to the last zone, so it takes forever to start getting squared away. But other than that, in IRL, just been hanging out with family, doing holiday stuff. It was my turn to host this year, so I had everybody come over to my house. Had a lot of fun with that. Normally, I don't like hosting people at my house because it's hard to get them out. But it was nice this year. It was good to have everybody over. So.
Well, it's good to hear everyone's having a good vacation from whether it be from the game or just from like the stress of life. Getting to see family is always really important.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a pretty full schedule for you today. Like we said in the opening, we have the full 2020 year in review. So we've gone through, made notes of all the, at least what we felt were all the big important updates of the year, and we're just going to go through them, discuss them, and kind of give our opinion on what we liked, what we didn't like, and then at the very end of the show, give you our own personal top 3, top 5 of our favorite individual updates of the year. So let's jump right into things with January. On January 4th, we saw the removal of the Duel Arena and the addition of Het's Oasis. And so for with this update, this was a major step in Jagex to combat real world trading, which in my opinion is a really good thing. The Duel Arena had become like a plague on the game where a lot of illegal gold that had been bought had been being transferred between players. So it's good to see that Jagex has gone and replaced this, and it just shows a good sign for things to come. And with the removal of the Duel Arena, we saw some additions to skilling in Het's Oasis. So we got a new agility course that requires level 65 agility, filling in those gaps between the wilderness and the monkey agility course. We have a new farming area that starts at level 30 that involves growing and collecting flowers. And those flowers are used for the new scarab hunting method, where you use, depending on the flower you use, you get higher level scarabs that provide different powders that you can use for prayer bonuses from anywhere from bonus experience when you bury bones to a penance effect for half an hour. So this one, I kind of want to gauge everyone's opinion on this. I think the removal of the Duel Arena is like a great step forward, so it's one of my favorite updates of the year. But I feel like the Het's Oasis, if it hadn't been for an update that we're going to talk about later, I probably would have had this a lot lower on my list because I never would have really participated in it. So how did you guys feel about the Het's Oasis?
I honestly didn't even go over there until Fresh Start.
Yep.
Same.
Like it. I guess I wasn't in a place that I really needed to. I was focused on other things back in January, but yeah, it wasn't really a big thing for me personally. But once Fresh Start came out and we were like figuring out ways to um, get that experience quicker, that was when I kind of experimented with with the flowers and the hunting and whatever, or the farming and whatever. So I know that was a big boost for farming early game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that as like people who have played the game for a long time, we're kind of outside those early to mid level range. We kind of just ignore the content when it drops. But having the ability to go back and see it as a player who's like in that level range, it actually was like a really needed like boost to different skills. I feel like especially like you said the farming skill, being able to consistently train farming without just waiting is
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
it feels it's a nice addition. I feel like we need more of those like other methods for training things like that. Did anyone else get a chance to check out Het's Oasis?
I ended up going over there, like you guys said, during Fresh Start Worlds. I didn't go there when it was released, but during Fresh Start Worlds, they definitely used the agility course, which is great. It's a good update for, especially for like Ironman accounts, hardcore accounts that don't want to go use the wilderness. Het's Oasis is actually a pretty good alternative. So, uh, I didn't go over there during the event though, unfortunately. I think I tried to do a little bit, but I really wasn't playing the game that much at the time. I had taken a little break around that time last year,
Yeah, I only
earlier
did
this
it.
year.
Yeah, I only did it personally in January when it was to get the comp cape requirement, which was catching like 200 scarabs or 1,000 scarabs or something like that. It took a little bit of time. I feel like it might have been a little too high a number, but I do want to say the burial powder and the penance powder are absolutely amazing buffs. If you're ever training prayer and you're just burying bones and you don't want to have to go to running back and forth to a gilded altar or something, being able to just spread some burial powder for a half hour buff and just burying bones is great. It's the same exact experience as a gilded altar with 2 burners, so it becomes like a new prominent training method, especially in fresh start worlds, being able to just use a burial powder and then just go kill dragons and have your bone crusher bury it for
Oh, nice.
gilded altar experience rates is amazing.
That
And
is nice.
honestly, I think even in Fresh Start, it was actually pretty cheap to purchase the powder, relatively speaking.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like it was expensive, but compared to like the rate, if you were just to buy normal bones and bury them, like
Yeah.
it was the cost of maybe 10 bones. So it was something that's like, would you trade 10 bones for a powder? Absolutely, because you're going to be able to bury hundreds in that amount of time. So yeah, it was definitely affordable and still is in the main game. So I definitely recommend if you're ever training prayer, that's definitely a way to go. It's a really good update for that. All right, and with that as well, we did see 2 mini quests added: the Eye of Het 1 and 2. And while I don't have much to say about the mini quests themselves, I do want to point out that I feel like this is the new style of quest or way the lore is going to be presented to us moving forward. Because we kind of saw with the Monolith mini quest, and now the Eye of Het, and in the future the Civil War mini quests, that we're starting to see kind of a pattern of mini quests being used to tie in the major questing events to continue the lore. So I'll be interested to see in the future if we continue to see the same kind of pattern where we're dropped every like month or so these mini quests that kind of just string the lore along to keep people interested in the new quest that's going to be coming out, especially considering the new quests are most likely going to have a tie to necromancy in the new skill. So it'll be, I don't know, I just wanted to point out that I think that this is like probably the new way that we're going to start seeing quests, a lot more mini quests between the major quest releases. Does anyone
I didn't even. I was gonna say, yeah, like I didn't even actually think about that until you mentioned it. Like with I have Het like mini quests and then like the Civil War quests. Like it seems like Jagex is introducing more mini quests into the game, like you said, to like keep the lore going and keep people have something small to do to keep people busy, I guess, in between like quest updates and stuff.
Yeah, and still thinking about the lore and what it has to like, what pertains, like what's going on within the story, because when you get these long droughts of a few months, it's kind of easy to forget what happened in the quests
Yep.
before. But if every month you're getting this nice little mini quest that like continues on the story even just a little bit, it makes the game feel like it's ever evolving. And I think
Well,
that's
yeah,
what they're going for.
yeah, and also like with what they did with the Civil War quest, like they released an item, with the release of Zamorak, and they had an infernal puzzle box that was sitting in there, and it had a few like small buffs, and then like after doing the Civil War quests, like you get more buffs for like the wilderness, and like they tied those mini quests into like the infernal puzzle box that gave you like buffs and bonuses for, like for example, wood cutting, criminal or bloodwood trees in the wilderness. With the wilderness rework, you no longer get mobs that jump on you while you're cutting down the tree if you've done these mini quests and have that puzzle box upgraded. Like
Yep.
there's bonuses to doing them
And
other than just lore.
exactly, and it makes you like, it tries to encourage you to interact with the new content, which I think, like I said, I think going forward this is going to be the new thing. We're going to see it with the Citadel that we're going to be getting in the wilderness, where whether it be a mini quest or like each month we'll see like a new building that we need to build, and there'll be some type of story connection to it. and that will give us a buff that's going to be like a slow progression, just like that puzzle box where you build a new building that'll give you a new maybe prayer training method or a new buff for prayer or whatever it might be depending on the new building you build. And it's this progression not only through lore but like a strength progression of your character as well. So I like the way they do it. It kind of feels like something that you'd see in like World of Warcraft with their like I don't know, like their weapons of power where you slowly buffing it with charges as you continue on through an expansion, and then at the next expansion you get this new MacGuffin that you're buffing. Just keeping everyone interested in playing the game and doing the new content. I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, moving into February, we saw our first DXP launch of the year, and this was a double experience event that lasted 10 days. We're only just going to mention it here the one time because it happens 4 times throughout the year, but basically it's 10 days. You get 48 hours of double experience to use however you want. Really good for people who are not Iron Men because Iron Men are not able to take advantage of it. But if you're a new player, always look out for these double experience events. They come around about 4 times a year. Also in February, we saw the Abyssal Breach, which was an expansion to Sentiston, adding the Sentiston Asylum. And in it, it brought 3 new Slayer mobs, the Abyssal Savage, the Abyssal Beast, and the Abyssal Lord, which required 95, 105, and 115 Slayer respectively to kill. And it also added in some of the coolest melee items in the game with the Jaws of the Abyss helm, dropped from the Abyssal Beast, and the Abyssal Scourge whip weapon, a tier 92 main hand weapon. So, the way these 2 items worked, the Jaws of the Abyss helm, when it equipped, all of your bleeds increase the adrenaline gain on melee basics by 2%. And then the whip itself had a passive effect that every time you hit a target, it added a stack of bleed that also combined with the Jaws of the Abyss would increase your adrenaline gain. So with this, I think Jagex, what they really try to do is differentiate the 3 different styles of combat. And we have Magic, which really focuses on critical hits. Tony, your new weapon that you had just finished getting, really emphasizes that, where every time you crit, I think it does another attack or something along those lines.
Yeah, you every time you crit so you use the spec on the staff, and then for 30 seconds every time you crit, you automatically fire an auto attack that doesn't interrupt abilities, thresholds, or anything. So it's kind of like a weapon where you want to build up like crit bonuses. Like the upgraded rings from Dagonoth Kings that came out, or the Grimoire from Solak. Anything that increases your crit chance is gonna play around that staff spec.
Exactly, and I think that's what they're doing with bleeds and melee. I think they're trying to differentiate the 3 different combat styles by making them have their own type of focus. So melee is clearly bleeds. You have weapons that for every bleed you're getting more adrenaline. More adrenaline is going to be more passive damage, and then you're going to be able to use more thresholds and more ultimates. So I think they're trying to find new ways to make the 3 different combat styles play differently to each other instead of just being different colors of the same style, essentially. Which I think is a really cool way to build a combat system. It gives you incentive to bring multiple groups of or multiple people using different styles, because you could always have your meleeer who's applying your bleeds, your mage who's doing your big heavy crit damage, and then your ranger who's getting a lot of those what was it, threshold abilities going off, very good adrenaline control. So I really like this update. I think the whip looks really cool. I haven't done much of these creatures. Has anyone else gotten a chance to do much Slayer?
I've killed the ones that drop the Jaws of the Abyss, the helm, I think, and I killed them for a little bit. Like those weren't. I think those were pretty simple with just kind of like a noxious scythe and an old dat coil or something. But I did end up getting a helmet on my first task, and then I haven't really gone back. But they were I liked it was a good update. I'm trying to work towards getting the 115 Slayer so I can get the Scourge on my Iron Man.
That's great to see that someone's gotten that drop. Has anyone else got a chance to try these out at all?
Again, going back to like I wasn't really playing at the time. I didn't even really realize they came out. I didn't. So when I was reading back through the updates this year, I saw like Tier 92 Abyssal Whip, and I'm like, what? I gotta go try this. So like going back and rereading this stuff through the years, like, oh, I want to go do this now. I want to play more, get more time in the game. So it was good to look back at the year anyway. But no, I didn't try them.
So what's your thoughts kind of on like the way that it seems like they're trying to differentiate the combat styles like that? We're making melees more bleed heavy and range more adrenaline focused.
My thoughts. I think you're probably right. I think they seem to be going that direction, and I kind of like it. I do kind of like it, but I don't know. I guess we'll see.
All right, and the final event we saw in February was the Path of the Creators Yak Track, which not a lot to say on the Yak tracks. There, I don't believe it was it the Path of the Creators or was it the next one where they introduced the every task had a skill and chill or skill and kill event. Was it the Path of the Creators they added that?
I
Don't
think
know.
it was
recall.
whatever Yak Track released the last
That's a
2
Kelly
Yak Tracks
question.
ago, I think, is when they started.
All right, that's the one that comes up later
I,
on in the year, then in
I
May.
think it's
That's a
either this
Kelly
last
question.
one or the one before.
She said she goes and finishes all of them, so that's a Kelly question.
Yeah, I
I
don't
like
even know.
I
Oh,
like it now. It's a lot nicer not having to for people who have no interest in like going to cut down 20 yew trees just for that. Like if you're maxed, and it's kind of nice just to be able to level it up whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so we'll just talk about that change. So this is the Path of the Creators. The one in February was the last time they had it set where they would give you two completely different skills. So it might be something like mine 300 ore or earn 100,000 base experience in archaeology. Well, if you're someone like myself who has 200 mil in those skills, you kind of don't want to do either because you're just wasting your time when you could be training another skill. So eventually, they removed the secondary challenge and just made it a skill and kill. It takes a little bit longer, but for every like 5 minutes you're doing any type of content, you get a point, and after a certain amount of points, you move on to the next round. So I feel like Kelly, how do you feel about the old style as opposed to the new style of it? Because I know you're one of the people who finishes every Yak track.
I like the new style a lot better, but I also wasn't like a huge hater of the old style. So, I think we talked about this a little bit. The old style helped me learn about the game a lot more than the newer style, but like you said, capping out at 200 mil on skills and then having to do that for Yak Track kind of sucks. So, benefits to both, but I'm in favor of the new one.
Awesome. It's actually interesting to hear you say that. I didn't even consider like the idea that going back and doing something that having to pick between one or the other and then doing new content that you hadn't experienced before might give you like a different mindset on I don't know, something like Het's Oasis that I would totally never go back to, but if it was like, hey, go do agility and for 40 laps, I'd be like, I mean, I haven't tried Het's Oasis. Let's go back and try it. And you kind of learn something about the game. I guess that's an interesting way to look at it.
Well,
All
for Iron Man 2, it's mostly just oddments for like you go, let's say you're 99 mining and you go, complete a task on the Yak track, that required mining before. And all you get is oddments. Like that's not really much. There's not much incentive to do that. I feel like the main accounts kind of get a little bit more off the Yak track than irons do, which is fine.
I mean, that's a fair critique that maybe they need to look at balancing the reward section more, where it isn't just stars and lamps, but things that like tokens or something that an Iron Man could actually find a benefit in. I think
Yeah.
that's a fair critique because I know going. I also feel like the free to play track doesn't give a lot of rewards at all either. It's like one medium star or one small star. I noticed that on my Fresh Start account because I didn't buy the premium track. Where it's like I almost don't even care that it's going on because the rewards are so minimal that it's almost non-existent. So yeah, maybe they need to buff the Yak track for Iron Men and free to play players. That'd be something to consider. All right, moving along into March, we had the launch of the Jagex launcher beta. So this came out on March 14th, and the launcher allowed a player to log into it, and then it would remember your account for the next time you come to log in. So all you had to do was click the play button, and it would immediately log you into either RuneScape or old school RuneScape. During the beta period, you were only able to log into one account, which it kind of felt like a pointless update at that time because I don't know about most people, but I already have it like auto log me in for most things, and typing my password only takes about 2 seconds. So it wasn't really much of a benefit, but we do see later on in the year that the launcher does allow you to eventually gets updated to allow you to log into and save multiple accounts at once. So now, for example, I can log into my main account, my Fresh Start World account, my Iron Man account, and my alt account, and I can just click play on all four of them and jump into the four accounts at once really quickly. But at the very start of the launch, I felt like it was kind of underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most people have more than one account.
Yeah, and logging out of that one account, next time you logged in, it wouldn't remember it. So, like, if you were playing two accounts, you had to log in and out of accounts anyway then. So it
Yeah.
had absolutely no benefit for anyone who is playing more than one account.
Yeah, defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
I heard that they were gonna like slowly make it larger, because I just remember them saying something about it's easier to make it bigger, like add more accounts to the ability than it is to start with a large number and have to dwindle it down.
Yeah. Yeah, that they talked about that on their most recent live stream. I believe it
Yep.
was their most recent live stream, and that was actually the new expansion that's coming to the launcher that we're gonna see next year. So I'll be really happy to see that when that comes out. But I even like the
I-
launcher the way it works now. Just having all of my accounts right there. I just click them from a drop down box and click play
When it works.
when it works, and it doesn't.
Sometimes I start and like I just turn on my computer and it won't run. Restart, re-download, whatever. It just I don't
Really?
know. Sometimes it just doesn't work for me. Maybe it's
Oh.
my computer. I don't know.
I've had a few crashing issues with it, but for the most part, I felt it's been pretty reliant. It's also nice that you can switch over to an old school account if you're the type of person
Yeah.
who's playing over on both. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. With the built-in RuneLite, if you use RuneLite, which I don't know why you would play old school without RuneLite, so it does launch into RuneLite as well.
it
I wish
does.
RS3 had
Oh
that.
wow. Yeah,
Yep.
We need RS3 RuneLite.
yeah. I
Yep.
will if there's ever a chance that we could get some of the features like that RuneLite has, I'd be all for it. Quest helpers, all that kind of stuff. I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping they incorporate something with their new launcher for RS3 to kind of like be
Mods.
similar to RuneLite for old school. Granted, like I know Jagex didn't create RuneLite, but like I feel like most people play RuneLite or old school because of RuneLite.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't want to get too far into it, but I don't think they're going to do that. The reason being is because RuneLite reads the game data. RS3 is secured traffic, so it can't be read.
Yeah. I wish they just had something
Well,
like
they could
nice
create their
add-ons
own.
and like add-ons that would just make the game uh have
Yes.
more stuff, I guess.
If
Yeah.
they allowed mods for their launcher or their launcher, that'd be great. I would love that.
That'd definitely be maybe that's a discussion topic for another episode. What kind of mods we'd like to see added to RS3. All right, moving into the major patches we saw in March. Virago's entry attack now deals 70% of your max life points in normal mode and 90% in hard mode, as opposed to the fixed amount shared between all players that it originally had. And this update just makes it easier for people who want to solo or duo. You don't have to over buff in order to survive some massive hit. You're just going to take 70 or 90% and you're going to be dropped into the instance. So I think that's a wonderful update.
Mm-hmm.
The Raksha update we're about to talk about also, because I have not done Raksha since but Raksha, the rock ball damage area, has been changed from a 7x7 to a 5x5 to better fit the visual size, and I cannot tell you how happy that makes me,
Me
because
too.
doing that boss and swearing you're outside of the rock fall animation and still getting hit was the most annoying, because that is huge damage that you take from that.
Yeah.
Easy boss.
Yeah, you're our PVM guru. Not all of us are the master like you. I can't even do Carapac hard mode, so.
I think I probably started killing Raksha when it was already reduced to a 5x5.
We
I
actually
don't think.
hadn't, Tony, because I remember doing free death weekends with you to learn it, and we did the first free death weekend, which was a long time ago, it was well before this.
Yep.
And yeah, I remember reading this post shortly after we had started killing Raksha and seeing that it was reduced, and it did. I don't want to say that I noticed much of a difference because you're kind of just running all over the place, but we were also getting better at the same time.
Yeah.
So
The shadows were the hardest part to see. Like
mm,
where the rock is going to fall. I know, Adam, you've complained about that when you were trying to learn them too.
Yep.
but I will
That
say
was hard to see.
I did recognize that I was taking less fall or rock damage when that patch first came out. But
Yeah.
we were also getting more experience too, so it could just be attributed to that. But
As a
yeah,
combination, I'd
it'll
assume.
definitely make it easier for someone trying to learn because it was very hard to begin with. Rocks would just hit you out of nowhere. It's like I was not in line with that.
I don't know how anybody can see in that room unless they have like a midday sky filter box on. Anyways,
True.
it is extremely dark in that boss instance.
Alright, and the final update of March, which is small, but if you played other games, I think you're going to appreciate it. The tab key can now be used as a custom keybind, and as a result, the reply message feature can now be bound to an alternate non-printable key. So, I don't know how many people use tab targeting for other games, but I think this is wonderful, being able to tab cycle between targets. I
Yep.
didn't even know about it until right now, and I think that I think this is the greatest update ever. The amount of times I've tried tabbing to switch targets and being like, oh yeah, I just opened up my chat and now none of my abilities work.
I thought you
You
were the
saying
one
that
that told me about it.
you were trying to surge and you were spamming your keybind key to the rune star or something,
Yep.
trying to surge.
I was talking to people in chat and sending them 4444444477777. Yep. It'll be nice to not have to do that, but yeah. Maybe I did read this before and I just forgot and hadn't changed it, but I'm gonna have to go into the game and change it right after this episode.
I think that is a little bit more useful now than it used to be though too, because like we've gotten uh like one of the wilderness flash events, I think it was the mining one.
Fire
After
Fiend
you
one?
mine the star, yeah, like you almost need to have target cycle just to get enough damage off because they die so quick.
Yep.
Like we're getting content where like you almost need to have a target cycle so you're keeping up with everybody else around you.
Yeah, it was definitely need a change. All right, moving into April, we have our first major quest, and it's actually the biggest quest of the year. It's the finale to the Elder God Wars storyline, Extinction, which, if my information here is correct, it's the first Grandmaster quest we've had in 6 years.
That is what was on their news post when I was reading through it. So I think the last one before that they said was in 2016.
That's
So
Next year, what was what was the last one before that?
I actually didn't look that up, but yeah,
Can't
that
be.
was what they said. So I was going off what Jagex said.
All right, so I'm gonna put
Ritual
one
of
of
the
you
Majra.
on that. Go figure out what it was 6 years ago that came out. I'm gonna read the little lore that came out from the Extinction Quest. Um, Spoiler alert: going forward, we're gonna talk about what happens in the quests. So if you haven't finished them, maybe skip ahead to the point where we're not talking about it. But here we go. So this was the conclusion of the Elder God Wars story. After defending Sentistin and the Elder Eggs from the invading armies of the Elder Gods, Saren betrays us and steals the Elder Eggs and disappears. After searching for her, we find her on Freneske, the homeworld of the Elder Gods herself and Zeros. And after confronting her, a shadow breach opens up and it's spilling out shadow anima, which Saren believes Zeros is responsible for after he got sucked into the monolith, and he's using this breach to harm the Elder Gods with the shadow anima. At the same time, our reinforcements arrive in Moya and Azanandra and who was it? The last person, Adristea, and along with Karapak and Jazz, the first of the Elder Gods, who's here to stop us from what we're about to do. Karapak uses the power of the needle to stall for time while we enter the breach to reach Erebus and try to find a way to defeat Jazz. We're able to find an idol of the Leviathan inside Erebus, and this summons a Shadow Leviathan out of the breach into Freneske. And with the help of Karapak, the Leviathan's able to drag Jazz into Erebus and into the Shadow Realm along with Karapak, who we assume dies because his soul kind of comes out at that point. Saren, then pissed off that we most likely just killed one of the Elder Gods, teleports the eggs away to the homeworld of the Ilijenka and intends to hatch them there. We follow her, and because we're unable to stop her, we have to evacuate the Ilijenkans from their homeworld. Some of them decide to stay, and we help the few that are willing to leave to continue their lineage. In order to stall for more time, because Saren has now summoned the Elder Gods to Ilya and is going to essentially rebirth the Elder Gods, we use the remaining power of the needles, the shards of the needle. We're unable to entirely stop her though, and she eventually starts the Great Revision, and all of Ilya is Ea is destroyed along with us. We end up getting killed, but survive thanks to the World Guardian status that Guthix has given us. And because we were not on Gielinor, the original seed planet for the Elder Gods, the new Elder Gods that are reborn are much weaker, and Saren decides to take them away, or essentially banish us from Ea, and to raise them as her new family, so we're essentially allowing the other side to live. We get sent back to Gielinor, where we accuse Moya of betraying us because she basically prevented us from teleporting outside of the planet to survive. She tried to get us killed on the planet when it exploded. She kind of laughs it off, admitting that she was trying to get rid of us while she could, because while we're there, everything's going to be harder to take control. And Saradomin and Adristea go to help a rebuild effort on Gielinor. Azanandra kind of thanks us for saving the universe, and the quest completes. Our major reward for this is the Ring of Vigor passive. So, this is a very long explanation of what just happened there for the finale of the Elder God Wars. How many of you enjoyed the Elder God Wars storyline? Was anyone a real fan of it?
From what I
No.
played, I kind of liked it. I like the lore of it, but I haven't completed it by far. So
I personally think the way it ended with this extinction quest was anticlimactic, to say the least.
Yeah.
oh, Mass Effect all over again.
Kind of. It was very. I was disappointed by the lore that came out in the Extinction Quest. I liked the whole story leading up to this,
Sure.
but the whole Saren betraying us and trying to revive the elder gods, and then I don't know. It just felt like it felt rushed, especially with the whole Leviathan just showing up outside through Erebus and just kind of murdering Jazz. Um, I know it's supposed to have a connection to Zautak in some way, but it's never really explained where, like, what is this Leviathan? Why does it exist in Erebus? Is it another? Is it like a god level deity? Like, what's going on with all of? Like, what's going on with Erebus? Where is Zeros? It feels like there's so many questions left unanswered that with the new storyline that we're gonna get into, I don't know how they're gonna conclude it or how they're ever gonna get back to it. So I don't know. I felt very much that this Extinction Quest felt like a great lead up that just fell flat for me.
Yeah, same. It was very anticlimactic.
Does anyone remember the Saren boss fight?
Yeah.
Barely. I remember rushing. Sorry to interrupt or
Oh
jump
no,
in
go
here,
for
but
it.
yeah, I barely remember it because I was just trying to rush through the quest to get the vigor passive upgrade, ring of vigor passive upgrade. So I kind of space barred through this one. Sorry.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Kelly, what were you gonna say?
I just said yeah. I remember it.
Did you enjoy it? Because I felt like I I remember feeling that boss fight was it felt very unfair to me. I don't remember what it was. I just remember not liking it. Feeling like if I remember right, there was like fire waves or something that kept like hitting way harder than they should. And if you
I
didn't
think
bring a huge inventory of food, you were basically screwed.
Yeah, I think you had to like avoid the eggs of the gods or something that were like kind of floating around like the coast, and you just kind of had to like run around and avoid their like pulse attacks,
Mm-hmm.
and they hit like a truck.
Yes, there was a after reading because I went through a bunch of patch notes for the year today. Reading through, they had a bunch of like mini patches on the boss fight. People were getting stuck. Damage was over amplified on some things. So like throughout the next month or so after this quest came out, they kept doing little things to adjust the boss fight. But yeah, there was a ton of food needed. If I remember correctly, though, even if you died, you kind of like just your character kind of collapsed and got like teleported outside of the zone. You didn't actually die. I can't remember entirely, but I think I died but didn't die. It was one of those weird things.
Yeah,
Like you kept
there's
failing, but you wouldn't die.
if I recall correctly, looking through the notes on this quest, there's like 60 or 70% of it where it is a safe death, but there's a certain point where the death is a if you're like a hardcore, it's not a
It would
safe
kill
death.
you. Okay.
But it's only for a certain section of either the boss fight or the quest itself, and I don't remember which. Might have been in Erebus where it wasn't a safe death. I
Yeah. I don't remember, but there were some safe deaths in there that made it a little less frustrating when it kind of felt like it was just stealing life from you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyone else got any thoughts about that? Overall, I think the Elder God War storyline was, like I said, a great lead up. I gave it like an 8 out of, I would give it like an 8 out of 10, but then it completely flopped the landing and it kind of soured it for me, make more like a 6.
I don't have anything to add to that, but the 2016 Grandmaster was Children of Ma.
Oh, was it Children of Ma? Okay, that is a long time
There were,
ago.
so I actually just went through all of them. I think JGX posted wrong. The last Grandmaster that they released, the most recent one before this one, was March of 2018. So it had been 4+ years, and it was Pieces of Hate, which I'm not sure how they kind of overlooked that. But before that, yeah, there was actually 3 Grandmasters released in 2016.
Yeah, I thought it would have been Slisuke's Endgame because that came out December 19th. That's what I thought it was actually.
Interesting. Is that not considered a grandmaster then?
It is a
Oh,
grandmaster.
okay.
Yeah.
I messed up.
But there were 3 in 2016, so it was a little. They did like bam 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 right near the end of 2016. They did I think October, November, and December grandmasters,
Okay.
and then Pieces of Hate came out early 2016, or sorry 2018, and then 4 years later we get another grandmaster finally.
That's interesting. I mean, I like the Moth storyline, the introduction of Zeros and Saren. Like, I thought that was really cool. Like I said I really liked the Elder God story up until that ending. It just felt like they needed I feel like they needed at least 3 more quests to really 3 or 4 more quests to really like finish that off. But
Totally.
maybe
Yeah.
there was a rush to get it done by the end of the year. I'm sure to keep up with their schedule.
Well, I certainly think they rushed it because I remember the rewards from the quest. They ended up buffing them because people complained that for a Grandmaster quest, it had crappy rewards.
Oh yeah, they
Mhm.
did because they end up adding to buff the dream of Aya to make it
Yep.
more powerful.
I
I think
wonder
I've
if
said that about 4 different ways now.
pretty much. I'm sure we all do for many things in RuneScape, for that matter. I wonder if staffing changes had anything to do with how they rushed through it.
That's true.
Because there was a lot of development people and whatever that ended up leaving Jagex this year.
That is true. I forgot about that. They did lose a lot of mods this year.
And there were a lot of well known mods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure that had something to do with it, being that they were the ones who kind of might have had the visions of where it was going to go, and then through those changes, like just kind of bits of pieces kind of fell away from like what was where the story was going to go, and they had to just kind of make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the final update for April was the Spring Festival. Not a lot to say here. We got some new cosmetics for Easter, and it brought some AFK training methods, some herblore slash cooking, fletching and crafting, and agility and prayer methods. So if you're the AFK type of players, look out for those Spring Festival and those holiday events to get nice AFK training methods for some some nice cosmetic rewards.
Join our conga line.
Yeah. Just a quick note on that. One thing I noticed while reading through the patch notes this year, or for this past year, is a lot of the holiday events, they took some of the old rewards that they had released prior in like an older season before, or the year before, and put them in the oddment store. So when holiday events come up, check your oddment store and make sure that if there's something in there you want, you might want to try and grab it. Or they put it as an actual purchasable or reward uh,
for
in the current
tokens.
event. Yeah, for tokens for the current event. They're really doing a good job this year of re-releasing items, which I appreciate that.
Yeah, and they've also, I don't believe we ever pointed out when it officially happened this year, but they opened up Iron Men to getting some of those tradable tokens, which I think is a pretty awesome thing that they did, because I know Iron Man have kind of gotten the short end of the stick when it came to rewards a lot of the time.
Cosmetics, yeah.
Yep. All right, moving into May, we have the Potterington Fletching and Fire Making update. And Spider wants to know one of the downsides on here is that the Extinction Quest was a requirement. On
Well,
May.
sorry, I thought that was kind of odd because it's like, oh, we have a new training method, but you have to do this Grandmaster quest. It's like,
Yeah, that is
All
kind
the
of
others.
odd.
for like the middle of the road, like 82 fletching and fire making, but you need to do this Grandmaster quest that is at the end of like all of the other quest lines possible. Because typically
Right.
when they release a Grandmaster quest, you have to have completed like 90% of the other quests to be able to do them. And then just to be able to train fire making and fletching at 82, you have to have completed almost half the game. Is like, okay.
And it's
Yeah.
I
and
thought, I
the
thought that was a little weird.
yeah, and the interesting thing is it's not like this training method really ties into anything that quest had to do with.
Right.
Okay, so I'll go into what it is. You guys will kind of see what I mean by that. So, on May 3rd, we got the new accidental fletching and firemaking training. In this update, we help prehistoric Potterington and the Zygomites of Anachronia. With 82 firemaking or fletching, we can help the Zygomites by giving them new haircuts, and this rewards us with fungal shafts, which is a new item needed in the creation of the new Dine Arrows, the new Best in Slot arrow. With 87 firemaking, we can help hatch baby dinosaurs by separating some good eggs from the bad eggs. By burning the bad eggs and incubating the good ones, new baby dinosaurs will hatch, which we can then get shells for, which again are needed for those arrows. After that, using 95 firemaking, we help feed the newborns and collect their explosive poo, which is the uh, explosive we need for the propellant of the arrows. And when you combine the dinosaur egg shards, the propellant, and the shaft, you get the new Dine Arrows, which, when you combine them with the Elder God Resonant Anima from the God Wars 3 dungeon, you create 4 new types of Elder God Arrows. So really, besides the Elder Resonant Anima, none of that had anything to do with the Elder God storyline. It was just hatching dinosaurs and picking up their poop.
I think it kind of goes back to what Tony said a little bit ago. Is they had to like spruce up the reward for completing Extinction, so they were just trying to add it as well. You could go do this new training method.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that does make it give you a reward if it actually is more of a consequence for not doing it, but
Yeah.
Coming out with a brand new mini game, or not even mini game. It's just like a skilling area, just for the poor rewards for a quest.
Yeah.
Have this new training method.
The new training, I will say this: the new training method is really good experience. If you're good at the 95 firemaking method and you're just going for XP collecting that poo, if you're good at like bladed dive and have your surges all on point, like it's upwards of like 1,000,000 experience an hour, so it's pretty good.
Some of those food troughs are a pain to get to. I feel like that's the worst part of the skilling method, is getting the dinosaur poop to make your feathered arrows or whatever, because some of those are at like an angle where you basically surge one tile into the wall.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm trying not to get that achievement.
Yeah, you gotta get the achievement.
Yeah, I will say though, even if you're just walking, the XP rate for firemaking there isn't too bad. And at least when they first came out, those arrows were worth a lot of money. So they were a pretty good money making method. I don't know if they still are, but if someone wants to check that out, post in the comment section whether it's still worthwhile to make the Dine Arrows. It'd be well appreciated.
I could see it being worth money with the release of the bow from Zamorak, tier 95 two-handed bow.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's kind of how it ties in. Oh, we'll get to the new the last boss of the God Wars, the other God Wars later. But yeah, I guess it kind of ties into the events through like I guess but the arrows needed for the new bow. I don't know. I don't like that it's a requirement. The more we talk about it, the more I think that's just
yeah, it doesn't make sense in my opinion either.
All right, later on in the month of May, on the 20th, we saw our second DXP live event of the year. And on May 31st, the Runescape board game Kickstarter launched. And I was probably the only one who cared about that, but I put it in here because I funded that and I funded all the expansions. So eventually, when we have a board game night at my place, we're going to be playing the Runescape board game.
Oh, nice.
Hell yeah.
Whenever they finally release that, I still get updates on it, but it has not officially released. But I'll let you guys know how that is when it does.
Have they done any other like new Kickstarter things from it?
No, it's just like 2 or 3 expansion packs that they want to do for it, which I don't even remember what they were, if I'm being honest.
Sure.
All right, and the last part of May, probably one of my more favorite updates, is the new Protean training items, cooking, runecrafting, and herblore. They were added on May 16th, and at the time of release, they were only available on Treasure Hunter. You couldn't get them from Protean packs or conversion. And herblore had to be nerfed by the end of the month, I believe, because the XP rates were so high that it was breaking the game. So those got, I think they got cut into like a third or something because they were 3 times too high.
Nice.
But eventually, later on in the year, those are available. They are now available in Protean packs and conversions. So those are the herblore one. Still is one of the best ones to do. And rune crafting, I believe, is best XP rate for rune crafting if you can do soul runes. So if you don't want to actually rune craft, there's an option for training that for you. And continuing in May. May had a real bunch of updates. We had the second Yak Track Journey to Aya. Group Dungeoneering was added for Iron Men.
Hey, we did that.
We all created accounts for this, and then we haven't done a very good job of actually participating in it. But we will.
Yes.
That'll happen eventually.
Maybe.
Once Fresh Start Worlds are over.
Yep.
I think that's what's gonna happen is once Fresh Start Worlds and people get back into their normal RuneScape routine.
I can play 2 accounts at once. Once Fresh Start's gone, I'm going back to the Iron Man. And then
you can't play 2 accounts at once. You're
hey, I've been getting better at it. I've been getting better at it. I definitely can't do more than 2.
Whoever's watching this, he's a big fat liar.
All right, wow. So I'll tell you my issue for the longest time. If I try to play 2 accounts, I focus on one so long that the other one just logs out. I've had a very inconsistent journey trying to play on 2 accounts at the same time. So I've gotten better since Fresh Start Worlds came out, but I'm still not perfect. I'll admit that. I'm man enough to admit it. And the last update for May was tradable extreme potions for overloads. I didn't get to really utilize this, but I think this has to be in my top 5 updates for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Really? You think so?
In terms of just things I think the game needed.
Okay.
I'm okay. I like it. It didn't benefit me personally, but I like that direction.
It's just funny to me, like the difference between how a normal Mainscape player, like you play your Mainscape account more than I do, versus I play Iron. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting update. Like that's cool, but it doesn't. I don't care. That's like the bottom of the list for me. It doesn't make no difference to me.
This was helpful for me for Fresh Start because that's one of the main things I did for 99 Herblore.
Oh, really? Okay.
I just bought sets of.
Yeah, that's the other thing with that update. Sorry, is they included them as sets too, so you could buy like whole sets of extreme pots together.
Exactly, and as someone I don't like to waste my time going from super set to extreme set and extreme set to overload set and overload set to whatever the next thing I need to make
Elder overload salves.
Yeah, salves. It's like being able to at least skip 5 different potions I need to make and just buy the extreme set is nice.
I do think it was kind of due for the game. Absolutely, yeah.
I do too.
Then I know we're not there yet in our timeline here, but once they did the herblore or the farming change and the seeds and the herbs and whatever, it made it kind of tough for someone who doesn't have a lot of herbs banked just to do herblore.
Ooh.
So this did kind of help me a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, moving along into June, we get the Twilight of the Gods quest, and this is kind of the start of the new. I mean, it is the start of the new storyline, where our story is going to start focusing on from here. But in this quest, we reinstate the Edicts of Guthix by using the World Guardian's power as its source. By doing this, we remove our protection granted to us by Gothics, and we banish the gods from the planet again. This sets up the story for the remainder of the year, as I said, as a power vacuum is formed in the Zamorakian army. In this quest, we also learn that about the origins of the light and shadow mask that we've been talking to for the past few years. And it turns out
really?
that the mask, the light and shadow masks, are the world guardian power combined with shadow and light anima. So it's basically our world guardian power directing us the way that we're supposed to go, but it's getting the personality is getting influenced by the anima. And the reason that it looks like Sliske, even though it is not Sliske, is that Gothics use Sliske's power of the Shadow Realm to kind of implant the World Guardian power in us. So it took on the form of Sliske.
Hmm.
And but it is in no way, it isn't Sliske possessing us or anything like that. And with the removal of the World Guardian powers, we also lost the ability to talk to the masks. So that is gone. The gods have all been banished again from Gielinor. Sirdaman, Zamorak, Azanandra, all of them have, and I think Nex as well, have all been kicked off and banished from the planet. So now there's these power vacuums that are forming in the ranks of their followers, and we're going to see in the future who ends up taking control in each of those different factions. So that was Twilight of the God quest. I don't remember anything important coming for rewards from that quest. Does anyone remember important rewards? I don't think
I think the only reward from that was, I think you got some damage reduction in the new ED4.
Yep.
I think, and that was,
it.
I think that was it, if I can remember. I just actually did that quest about a month and a half ago, and I did kind of spacebar through it, but I do remember that that was one of the rewards from it, is damage reduction.
Yeah, I like what this is setting up. It feels like it's bringing the story more down to earth, more I guess more warring factions again. I kind of like that idea of it not being some like universal power threat that we're worried about, but just individual armies going to war with each other and the aftermath of the influences that the gods have left. I think it's I'm interested to see where they go with this. What are your guys' opinions on what the kind of setup that they've set here for the future storyline?
I don't have
I
too much because I have
I don't
not
really
done
have
them
much
yet.
either.
I haven't done them yet. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
that's
doing them, um, but I haven't done any of the recent quests since Extinction. I'm kind of on my hardcore account. I'm actually like rereading through all of the quest lines and replaying through all the quest lines, reading the dialogue, and going through a timeline order. I'm just playing through it like a different way, following the timeline of the quests, which I'm finding very enjoyable. But with Fresh Start Worlds, I kind of stalled out. So I haven't done too much since Fresh Start Worlds, and really haven't done any of these harder quests or later story quests because I'm still in the early timeline.
Oh, that's totally fair. I was one of the things I want to eventually do here is do a more scripted um like explanation, I guess, of the lore.
Mm.
mm-hmm.
Do a deeper dive and have it more written out, because kind of the way we do these shows is they're kind of just off the cuff. We have notes, but we don't have any real like. We just kind of have notes on what we want to discuss. We don't have like a hard like written essays. But I would like to do a more like hard script on a the storylines going through, like whether that be the Elder God story or the pirate quest lines or the Elven quest line. I think that would be a fun like show to kind of do. So like looking into this, I'm kind of picturing like where do I think they're going, like what kind of concepts are they trying to lay, like groundwork are they trying to lay for future quests? Because we'll definitely see by the end of the year here exactly where they're going, and I think it's kind of cool. Moving right along then into the major patch notes of June. Dying in War's Retreat is now a safe death and will revive the player automatically. I never had this issue. Has anyone else died in Death or War's Retreat and had it an unsafe death?
I have not, but that's big update for hardcore Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's right where you're talking about where I didn't even think about hardcore Iron Man there because I'm not an Iron Man, but I could totally see that being oh wow, this is going to be a having the War's Retreat teleport, it can be a safe haven now if you're able to just get out and have a safe death.
Yeah, because even I know playing through like my first Iron Man account, I was a hardcore to begin with as well. There were times where I would teleport out I'd actually teleport to my house because War's Retreat wasn't a thing when I first started playing Iron Man. But I'd teleport to my house and die once I got there. So I would take like delayed damage or something like that, but die in my house, which was also a safe death and would just kick me outside. But now I know, War's Retreat is also a safe death. It's really nice to know that as well.
Yeah, I definitely could see that being a hardcore Iron Man's best friend.
Yeah. Safe deaths. We like safe deaths.
Yeah.
All right, and the Demon Invasion. So this was an event that set up the next boss, the new boss that was going to be released. And I never participated in any of the events. So if any of you guys participated in them, feel free to tell us what you thought of them because I have absolutely no opinion on this.
I didn't participate in them too much. I thought it was a very interesting little concept where we have a new boss coming out and like a major. I mean, this isn't just a new boss. This is Zamorak boss coming out, and the world's kind of like breaking basically, and creatures from the abyss are starting to come in because of his presence and whatnot. Um, I thought it was a really cool concept. Is like these little events pop up every hour or so in game. Is like, hey, the boss is coming. There's evidence of it. That type of thing. The event itself wasn't really that rewarding. It just gave you like rerolls for the boss, which I hadn't planned on doing on release. So I didn't do too much of the event, but I liked the concept of the event. It's like, hey, you have a boss coming out, and we're gonna like make it feel like it's changing the world. So I kind of liked that.
That's fair. Anybody else get a chance to try the new boss event?
I did
No.
not.
Negative.
All right, so well, there's that. I had not a much of an opinion for me either. So, there was a patch to the Shadow Reef Elite Dungeons 3, so the gold there got nerfed, and I think this personally was needed, especially with Fresh Start Worlds coming in a couple months. This was a perfect time to implement something like this. If honestly, it probably could have been done sooner, but I'm glad they didn't change the XP rates, and it was just the gold that got nerfed. And that might be biased because I did a whole ton of Shadow Reef Elite Dungeons 3 in Fresh Start Worlds, but
For anyone like wondering, they didn't just completely nerf it. They kind of broke it up into 3 stages. So the first stage of the dungeon before the first boss, they really reduced the amount of gold items or alcohols you could get from it. That way, you couldn't just run in and do the first phase without killing the boss and then rerun it again. So once you pass the first boss, the middle stage between the first boss and the second boss is same as it was before, and then the last stage between the second boss and the final boss is like really kind of buffed up the actual gold currency drops. So if you do it properly, like from start to finish, you should technically get about the same amount of gold that you would normally the previous way if you just did it the whole run through. But they were trying to prevent people from just running through to the first boss and resetting, running through to the first boss and resetting, running through the first boss and resetting. So
I think there was a lot of bots that were doing that.
oh yeah,
I would when I was a little bit lower in my Iron Man account, I would see like a bunch of bots. I'm assuming they were just kind of wearing like Batwing armor and had polypore staffs, and it was like all their skills were super low except magic would be like almost 120 or just something insane, and I just assumed that they were kind of bots.
Oh, they were, yeah.
Probably just the amount of quests they needed to get to that point, and that was it.
Yeah, and it makes sense of the way they did it, and I like that they didn't completely make it like worth nothing for anyone if
Mhm.
they actually wanted to do the content. They just, yeah, like you said, they moved the gold across to the third section pretty much so that people who are doing it normal way, they still got paid, but the people that just wanted to farm it for XP or were trying to cheat the process, they couldn't do it as easy. They wouldn't get paid for it.
It kind of goes back to that early update, early on in the year. So they're trying to cut down on the real world trading. Like Tony was saying, these were bots running them. They was just using it for gold farming to sell gold IRL.
Yep.
So they were kind of trying to cut down on real world trading.
Yep, and then
So
we're gonna see in the future, beginning of next year, with the GE tax and the death cost, where they're trying to just rebalance the way gold comes in and leaves the economy. Which, hey, if you're gonna make it so that it's harder for cheaters to get gold or gold farmers to get gold, I don't have an issue with that at all. And then we got for the end of June, the beach event came back, and is this the first time we've seen it in a couple of years? It's been away for a little bit.
at least two, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's been away for a little while.
Yeah, I enjoyed the beach event. I was in the middle of my fishing grind, which I didn't even say at the beginning of this. I finished my fishing and my Slayer grind. 200 mil
Great.
both of those. But I
Nice.
was in the prime of my fishing back at this beach event, so I was sitting there fishing for a long time.
Nice.
I like the beach events when they come around. They're fun.
The sandy clues too. Yeah,
Yep.
it's a fun time.
Anyone else have any
Oh,
do much with the beach
dungeoneering.
event? Oh yeah, the
Back in,
dungeoneering hall.
getting back in the hole.
Yeah,
in your
back in
hole.
the hole. Yep, that's right.
All right, July then is the release of our Zami boss, and I don't think any of us except Tony killed this guy.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep, Tony is taking.
Sorry for being the only person in this chat room who likes the PVM aspect of the
Hey,
game.
no, there's no reason to be sorry. We should be the ones that are sorry. You're gonna have to carry us on this discussion because besides the bow and a couple of abilities that came out, I don't know anything about this boss. Except they did have a really cool live stream where they followed the first kills,
Oh yes, that was
and
really cool part.
they do that with okay, I should say they do that because Jagex doesn't do it, but Bungie does it with Destiny. Um,
First raid.
Blizzard does it with World of Warcraft for the world's first raids. I love events like this. They are
Same.
so cool. To be able to watch the top players trying out new bosses for the first time, and then seeing them like hit walls that you're sitting there trying to figure out how to do it along with them is so fun.
Mhm.
But I never was able to figure it out watching the streams. Tony, why don't you tell us how this boss works, or like at least your experience with it, even if you don't remember a lot.
I'll be honest, like I don't remember a lot, but I do know like during the boss fight there are platforms that you have to charge up, and each platform gives like either a certain debuff or a buff to your character. So there's kind of like an optimal way you want to do it, and I think the way that my buddy and I were doing it is you pretty much go I think clockwise, and then when you get to the last two pads, you flip flop them. Because I think one of the pads is like your food starts to heal you for like half half the healing rate or something like that. But um, the rewards from the boss are pretty good, like the bow and like certain like upgrades to your death swiftness or sunshine. How people it's kind of like makes it a little bit less switchscape when
Mm.
so you don't have to switch to like a planted feet anymore. These these codexes that you get give you that extended duration, and they give you that small damage if like your enemy is actually standing in like your sunshine or death swiftness. But for the most part, I just kind of was doing like low and rage kills. I didn't get anything, but I think I only did like 15 or 20 kills. But it was a pretty enjoyable boss, and I do plan on going back to it once I get a little bit better upgrades.
I just got one question. Does it feel like you're killing a god?
Um, yeah, kind of, because like some of the
Okay,
lines
alright.
that he says in there, like he'll like shout like feel the rage of a god or something. He like slams his wings down and hits you with like a strong melee attack or whatever. Like it it's a very fun fight. It just
Okay.
I
Here's another question, like, because all the other like cinematic pictures that they show for other bosses, they make the boss seem really big most of the time, like Virago and Solak, but really when you get in the boss fight, they're not that big. Is Zamorak actually like a big god-like size monster, or is he like a little guy that's like 3 times your height?
no, he's actually pretty big. Like
Okay, okay,
he's much bigger than like the like times that you see him in like a quest or something like that.
okay,
Um
cool.
it's kind of it's kind of got like fun aspects to it too, I guess, in a way where like Solak kind of introduced this too, where you go into like a realm world and you have to kill, like in the Zamorak fight, you uh once you charge up a pad, you have to go into like a realm kind of world, I think, and kill a witch, and then like once you kill the witch, you go back, and I think if you don't kill the witch, like it prevents you from like progressing in the fight. And I believe in like higher enrages, which I never got to this point. Like they add like another trick to the boss where when you go to this like realm, there's like hieroglyphics that are around you in like this big open cave that you're in or whatever, and like Zamorak will be there with you, and he'll like he'll pulse like you'll see like a hieroglyphic symbol come off of him or something, and you have to run to that symbol and like destroy it, otherwise like you get hit for like an insane amount of damage, which kind of
Hmm,
helps where like crit bloom comes in, or any form of like magic tank armor, because it seems like at high enrages magic is kind of the meta with huge damage reduction that Animate Dead brings to the game.
sure, okay.
But overall, I do enjoy it, and it's kind of nice. Like I haven't gotten to this point yet, but if you run the dungeon, I think 25 times, you can just skip right to the boss fight. You don't have to run through like the dungeon itself, which I've only ran through I think once, and I think it takes about a half hour to 45 minutes or so. But it's kind of nice, I guess, that like you don't have to run the dungeon for 45 minutes to get to them.
Okay.
I guess that was kind of like a nice little thing that they added, so people can just go straight to the boss and kill him. And but I think overall it's a very fun boss to kill. It's a lot more than just kind of standing there and just soul splitting with like a magic prayer on or whatever, and just AFKing it. I guess like there's a lot of aspects to it. Makes
Cool.
the bosses more interactive, and I think that's what they're. I feel like they're trying to head in that direction where a lot of bosses are like you have to pay attention. Like you can't just stand there anymore and AFK them,
It
which I
sound
like. It makes it more challenging and
it
more fun.
it kind of sounded like Oryx. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't know how many people played Destiny, the original Destiny, but like the Shadow Realm and killing a witch and like having to stand on platforms and stuff. It sounds like a Destiny raid, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought it was kind of unique that they added certain buffs and debuffs to like the platforms, so like you can kind of go about the boss however you want, but like obviously the first platform, like the one that gives your food like a debuff and it only heals you like half, like that's something that you obviously want to probably activate last. But you can kind of,
You can choose how you want
yeah,
to
you can,
go
yeah, you
about it.
choose how you choose how you want to go about it, which I like.
Well, all right, it sounds like that was a pretty good update. We'll see where that kind of falls on people's lists. The other update for July that we have was the ultra rare treasure hunter item changes. So there was 4 new ultra rare items added to treasure hunter. These are the protean processors, the dummy processors, the superior knowledge bomb, and the death touch dart box. And so all 4 of these are ultra rare drops, and they each come with their own benefits. The box of death touch darts is probably the most obvious. It's 10 death touch darts. Use them however you want. The superior knowledge bombs contains 10 superior knowledge bombs, which are 1 hour of double experience. The box of dummy processors, you get a box of 5 of these, and each dummy processor will convert 75 dummies straight into the XP that you would normally get, and you can kind of mix and match whether you do like agility or slayer dummies. It's up, you get 75 per processor. And then the same thing with the protean one, you get 2,000 proteans that you can convert for each of the 5 processors you get for the box of protean processors. So, RuneStar, you got one of these drops during your Fresh Start Worlds experience. So how much of a help was that for you? Maybe he's not around here for a sec, but
Sorry.
oh, didn't you get one of these ultra rare drops during your Fresh Start World experience?
Yes. Yeah, when I first got it, I wasn't really sure what each of these were. I forgot that this had happened. So then when I got it, I sent you guys a picture like, hey, which one should I choose? And then I just chose the protean one. But I I should have researched it a bit more when I was doing it because I kind of just did one per skill that I had proteans of. I should have just thrown it all into Hunter
Yeah.
or something, or crafting, just all into one so that it was something that kind of maximized my experience because I did have a ton of proteans in Fresh Start.
Yeah, because if you use all of them on one skill or one type of protean, it's 10,000.
Yeah.
You get 5 2,000 each, so that's basically you can 99 whatever you want if you get one of these. Very very strong the protean ones. Same for the dummy ones. 75 dummies times 5. Like I don't know exactly what that would come out to at like a level 70 or level 80 skill, but I'm sure that's a lot. Superior knowledge bomb, 10 hours of double experience. I don't think most people would complain. And then I think the weakest one of them all, probably the 10 death touch darts, unless you get really lucky. So you can just buy death touch darts whenever the what is it? I forget that the sailor dude comes around. Buy it from
Or
Traveling merchant.
yeah, traveling merchant. You can get your death touch darts there. I wouldn't really
or
spend my
do your
box
dailies.
on that.
It often comes up on dailies too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, dailies you probably get maybe about 1 or 2 a week even, or at
Yeah.
least I should say 1 or 2 a month at least.
Yeah, I think they rotate like 2 or 3 like weekly challenge like reward uh progressions, and I know Death Touch Starts is on there,
Yeah.
which
So
is
like
kind of nice.
yeah, that if you're gonna want death touch darts, stay away from getting this box. I mean, I guess you can't help it if you do, but if you get a choice, like we did in Fresh Start Worlds, we got to pick one of the 3. We got 3 of these that would pop up at a time. You got to pick one of them.
Mhm.
I got the superior knowledge bombs, and I have 8 of those to still use. So
And there's only so many bosses that you can really use a Death Touch Start at as well. Most
exactly.
bosses nowadays have phases to them, so it's not the same.
Yep. All right, and the last patch of July, the Bladed Die started working with scaling items, Crystal Hammer, Saw, Tinderbox. A nice update. Gonna kind of become irrelevant here later on. Let's start moving along here. We got the Wilderness Reborn in August. This added a whole bunch of basically changes to the Wilderness. We saw the PvP go away, added a new threat system, which for a while had some didn't seem to be working right for everybody, where stuff wasn't dropping, too powerful of things were spawning. Those ended up getting nerfed and changed a bit, but overall, for the people that didn't want to participate in PvP but wanted to do activities in the wilderness, I think this was probably a pretty good change for them. I don't know. Does anyone have an opinion on whether they liked or didn't like the Wilderness Reborn?
I like it because I honestly think PvP was dead in RS3. So it's kind of nice that they get, kind of with like the duel arena too, like they just kind of change old content that's not relevant anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you entirely. I like that it's gone. I mean, I still think the what is it? The threat system has some kinks to be worked out, but for the most part, I don't mind it. I think it's threatening enough.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on, we have the Daughter of Chaos quest. This is a pretty short one. The quest primarily focuses on Moya and her actions after the events of Extinction. She's working for Bill Ratch and is charged with helping him gain dominance in the power vacuum that was created with the removal of Zamorak and the rest of the gods. There's basically a civil war going on between the between two different factions of the Majorat and the demons, and Moya sides with Bill Ratch to help him gain power. It's you go around killing basically killing a bunch of warring Zamorakian factions. There's not a lot to it. I thought the combat in there was kind of a pain in the butt. It wasn't. I didn't find it extremely difficult, but I definitely see where it felt like it wasn't responsive. And instead of using your traditional combat system with your action bar, you had a 1, 2, 3 for abilities that you had to click to use. It seemed like I don't know. It
That was
felt
frustrating.
yeah, it felt laggy. It felt like I said unresponsive. And I feel like if you're gonna pick a combat system and stick with it, even if you're gonna use other players, because we'll see in the next quest that we do, they change it again, and I don't like that. But anyone have any difficulty with this quest or find have anything they really want to talk about? I didn't find it all that interesting, except for the fact that it tells us that there's a power vacuum uh, being formed.
I, from what I remember, the combat could be quite frustrating when you get to a certain point. Um,
Yeah, so essentially 3 combat encounters. The third one is, I think, by far the hardest.
yeah, I think I failed it a couple of times. Like I think the first, so I played it on a couple accounts. I think the first time I went through, I didn't really have too much issue, and then for whatever reason, the second time I went through, I think it took me like 3 or 4 times to get past it for some reason.
Yeah, and you're not playing your own player, so it's not a issue of not having the right abilities or right gear.
Right.
Every time you do it, you're playing as Moya, so you have the same health, same abilities. It's just I don't know. I just think it wasn't very responsive.
Yep.
All right, moving on. We had the 300 million account party that came out. With that, we had a golden box event, which came with platinum Nex items. So the Torva, the Pernix, and the Virtus armor, all in a nice platinum color. And I think Tony, you got this one as well as the green party hat from Christmas the year before.
I sure did.
Yeah, yeah.
Blessed with a silver spoon.
Golden in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up purchasing the Nex armor because I thought the Nex armor looked really cool. So I bought a token for that.
Was it okay? So one question, because I didn't really get anything from it. If you got the gold box, did you get all 3 sets, or would you have to get like
Oh,
through the gold box 3 times to get all 3 sets?
oh, so
I think it was just a roll on either Torva, Pernix, or Virtus.
Oh wow.
And I think if I remember right, it was 25% chance for each, and then 25% chance for like
For
200
the
million
gold.
coins.
That's right. Oh man.
Like,
As an
yeah.
iron, though, I don't know if you probably get the coins, but I was worried that, like, when I got the present, I was like, oh, I hope there's not Hodmans in here. Like, but it's kind of nice to get that, but also, like, I, I guess for
Lucky in
me,
all
like,
the
it's,
wrong ways.
yeah, and it's not, it's like old art style, I guess, like armor of the game. So, like, to me, it just feels weird, like, having all these nice graphics, like in Gillinor, and then wearing like cosmetic overrides of armors that just don't match the art design anymore. I guess like I didn't really like that. For me, I guess I'm picky with that.
Yeah, I didn't mind the look of the armors. I thought they looked all right, but I definitely feel that way about some of the future stuff that comes out that we'll talk about in a couple months. We also got the third Wildy track, and this one introduced random rewards. So I think this caused a lot of chaos. I know I don't want to say a friend of mine, but a YouTuber that I am an acquaintance with had quite a negative reaction to this change when it came out. And essentially all this was is there's every 5 tiers, I think it is, you got a random box that had a reward, and you had the chance at a very, very rare cosmetic cape. Like one of 4 or one of 5 cosmetic capes.
Mm.
And it was another one of those. Not only are you doing the wildy track, but you're throwing more RNG at it, so you encourage people to go buy more coin or buy more bonds, so that they can spend their bonds on random rolls in the loot boxes, and it's just it felt cheap because it felt like the yak track was with the one just before that, the one we had done earlier in the year after they had changed it to introduce the skill and chill on every task, it felt like it was in the perfect place. And then they threw like microtransactions on top of it and just sour taste. Still don't like it.
Only we can get real world trade.
And then we also on August 12th got the third DXP live event, which looking at this now, I notice it's like a DXP live event and a yak track. I think at the same month every year. They both pretty much come at the same time every year.
Very close to it, yeah.
Huh. All right. Just something I noticed. So that was the third one we got.
Right at the beginning of Yak Track, they do double XP close to it, or just near it. Huh.
Oh,
Interesting.
yeah, it's just something to think about. If you see a yak track or you see a DXP, you know the other one's probably right around the corner. So September, we got the graphic update into free to play areas like Lumbridge. I think it was Lumbridge. Was that the Lumbridge one? Where they updated the
The
bridge
graphic
and the trees.
They
Yeah, I think
updated
so.
pretty much
I,
all of the free to play area. Lumbridge, Varrock, Falador. They just added like a better lighting, changed the path look, like the pathing look and the grass and stuff like that.
I'm okay with all of these. I like that the game is getting updated. I still want a player model rework, so I
Yes.
will never
same.
complain about a graphics update. Even if that's the only thing we get that month, I'm okay with it.
Unreal Engine 5. It's funny. The same time they came out with a graphics update, they had someone in the community make an Unreal Engine 5 layout for the Legends Guild, and they had the little video of someone exploring that in Unreal Engine 5, and it looked amazing. And I was like, "Dang, what can we get Unreal Engine 5 in RuneScape sometime?" That was no, it looks good, and I love the graphic updates and stuff like that. I hope eventually we get to some crazy good looks in RuneScape. I think it's possible, but it's a long way off for sure.
Same. I think archaeology was kind of like a stepping stone. Like when they came up with the like areas for archaeology. It was like the art design, like the cosmetic look of the game was just so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
The retro item override drop. So I don't remember this, if I'm being entirely honest, but is this where they introduced more of those was that in Solomon's store?
Yeah.
We got more retro looking skins like the black armor and stuff like that.
The Dragon Scimitar. They had like all throughout the beginning of the year, they had a community vote going on,
yeah.
like whether we want the Dragon Daggers, the Abyssal Whip, the Dragon
Yup.
Scimitars. They just asked people like what did they want, a new cosmetic override from retro look, because they've been introducing some of them like the Nex armors, the bandos, and
Yes.
different things that you can override your character with like the old style look, and they were just adding a new drop for them, and they got the community to vote on what the community wanted, and this was the release of what the community decided on. So
Gotcha. I don't mind the dragon weapon so much, but seeing the black armor, like with the black gold trim and stuff like that, it just doesn't match.
no,
It feels weird. Well, I mean, there's so many weird like outfits out, I guess, that you see in game nowadays that it really shouldn't bother me as much as it does.
I think the thing that kind of irritates me about it is it isn't exactly retro. It is like a redesigned retro. Like if you look at the Dragon Scimitar in OSRS and then look at the retro Dragon Scimitar Override, it looks completely different. It's like, no, I think people want like that OG look, like that old look that it used to be. And maybe even like if you put some of that stuff on, like you change the way what your character is wearing, it would stand out a lot, but it should change the style of the character too to look kind of like it came from old school RuneScape and just got dropped into RS3. I think that would be kind of interesting.
That'd be fair.
But yeah, some of these retro overrides, I don't think they match with the game style at the moment. So
Yeah, that's what I don't like about them either.
All right. So Iron Man can now group boss with main accounts, and Solat can be done in solo mode. So after all of that, creating Iron Man accounts so that we could all group and play together, we can boss together now.
yeah,
So at some point, we definitely need to see if we can do the Zammy boss together as a group. Tony can
yeah,
teach us all how to
Kelly.
do it.
Yeah,
Kelly will get all the drops.
Called out.
no, her spoon boss is Croesus and she hates him.
Yes.
And then at the end of September, we also, I guess I don't know if it was the end of September. In September, we got Fresh Start Worlds, and I'm not going to spoil where this is going to fall on my top list, but this is definitely up there. Fresh Start Worlds has given me a new love for the game. I encourage anyone, if they get a chance to participate in the Fresh Start Worlds, if they do this again, do it. It's fun. Anyone else got anything to say on the Fresh Start Worlds?
I mean, if Fresh Start Worlds came out, the rest is history. That's where we've all been for the past. Not all of us have been, but that's what's happened to a lot of our RS progress for at least the majority of the group has just gone absorbed into Fresh Start Worlds. It is very enjoyable. And yeah, I would play it differently next time because I think I kind of burned myself out and didn't even achieve anything. But yeah, I enjoyed it still. So.
Yeah, I would definitely play it a different way myself too. I'd have my own. I have completely new ideas for what I would try to do. But I think it was also Fresh Start Worlds, just all the controversy and discussion around it before it came out that really just inspired, like, really got an inspiration for this podcast to even start. Because I remember sitting there talking about our likes and dislikes and whether we thought it was just a cash grab or whether there was anything really really could get out of it to begin with, or it was all that discussion that kind of was like, you know what, we should record this and give our opinion on other things, and that kind of
Grats.
What a spoon!
Oh my god, that's awesome.
I don't know what happened.
Congrats.
I
Tip
just
drop.
got Spear of Annihilation tip.
Ah, nice! Congratulations.
That
Thank
was
you.
really high pitched there.
I was very confused. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Oh, jeez. Wow, that is amazing. Sorry.
Oh no,
Sorry to
no.
interrupt the podcast.
No, well, if we're gonna do this, I'm gonna say also Fresh Blib, my clanmate, just got a Borrow's Die drop too. So congratulations to him.
Oh,
Get a
great.
poop,
And
poop
on
die.
Fresh Start Worlds. So
Oh,
Borrow's
that
Die
is.
on a Fresh Start.
This is total spoon. I'm still 115 archaeology, so I don't know
Oh
how long
wow.
I've been here, but it hasn't been that long.
How many how many artifacts do you have?
Like 150 or so combined. So very
Yeah,
soon.
Tony
you got
nearly
like
got 200 mil artifacts in the time it took him to get his.
I hate you, Thomas.
Well, you
Speaking
got
of
2
spoon,
golden boxes, so take your crappy reward, and I'll
Well,
get
I
the
sold one of those green box rewards for upgraded bank space.
Oh,
Nice.
Congrats on your spear tip.
thanks.
all right, so yeah, I guess Fresh Start Worlds not only was it a fun like little side thing to participate in, like it pretty much is the reason this podcast started to begin with. So it's got a soft spot in my heart. Moving on to October, we have the Master Max Cape. Now there's I think 2 people here who are really going for this. Kelly, gotta ask, what are your thoughts on the Master Max Cape, the 120 all cape?
Super ugly. And I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about they put all this effort into Fresh Start Worlds and then they give us a really ugly cape. But that's just my opinion. I don't think it looks good. I will never wear it, even if I have 120 all.
120 fire making for the win.
Bad. I think the 120 capes look so much better than 120 all. So I don't know.
I don't have a strong opinion on its looks one way or the other. It's fine to me, but it's an achievement. I want it just to say I have it. I probably would I wear it?
Yeah, would you wear it? I mean, like, it's cool to have it, but would you, like, style your character around it?
Probably. I mean, I might change its color to match my character, but I wouldn't. No, I don't know. Nah, probably not.
I think it'd be cool if you could, like, change the particle trail to the colors that you wanted.
Yeah, if the particle trail was black,
Yeah.
that's what I want. All black. Get my Kirito look going on. Oh, so Master Max Cape doesn't sound like too many people were super excited for that, or the lore that it brought, which I don't even know what it is. There's something there, not important. Wildy Flash events. Now, this is I think is it 8 events that they brought, 3 of which have a super special reward that can upgrade your alchemical hydrix items. Is that the I forget the names of them now. The Grace of the Elves, the Luck of the Dwarves, and what's the other one?
Mm-hmm.
Passage of the Abyss.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
it can upgrade those to give those special effects. Those are really cool. The rewards are great. I think it introduced the Wildy Flash event. I think introduced too much money into the game. If I'm being 100% honest, they did a really good job of eliminate ways of just gold just like ripping into the game or flowing into the game, and then they completely like turned on a faucet because the salvage that comes in through there is so much, and it's so easy to obtain for any level player
Mm-hmm.
that you're just getting millions of gold an hour if you're really just focusing on doing those events when they come around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget that they dropped the Necronium stuff, which some of that stuff I think alks for like over 1 million GP. Some of those salvages.
Yep.
Even Croesus introduced a lot of salvage too, like for low levels. Or
Mm-hmm.
Calcium salvage elks for quite a bit too.
Yeah, and some of these events you don't need combat. It's almost no risk to do. So you can just walk out there with a very fresh account. Fresh Start World accounts were a great example of people just like that's where most of the gold in the game came from Fresh Start Worlds.
Yep, for sure. I don't. In a way, I like it because like early game accounts can get money fairly easily. I wish they had changed the drops a little bit so like the higher your total level was, the different types of items you would get. So as you progress further into the game, you get more useful items versus alchables. But if you're like early in the game, you'd get alchables because money is very helpful in your
Yeah,
early account.
that's
But
totally fair. I also
um,
think that the drop rate of that dark core is too low.
I'd agree,
Yeah,
especially
it's
because
insanely rare.
It's not tradable, so in my opinion, a 1 in like 250, 1 in 200 chance isn't unreasonable. Because you still have to get, you can do it, what, maybe 3 times a day? If you're like hardcore playing. Most
I was
people will
gonna say
probably.
not for full-time job workers.
Yeah, if you're a hardcore player, you can do it maybe 3 times a day.
Well, yeah, because
And
I
that's
think
going to
there's
take.
only certain events even drop the core.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so that's going to take you, if you're trying to complete 3 of them, it's going to take you, on average, even if it was like 1 in 200 drop, what, like 6, close to a year or two
It's,
to
it's
get
almost 100 days if you're doing three a day, right?
to get one. And you got to
Yeah,
get it 3 times
yeah.
for all of them.
Oh
Like,
yeah, so yeah, it'd be a year to get all of them.
and
Yeah,
that's 3 times a day on no lifing it to make sure you get, like, that's that's more than reasonable for a rare drop,
yeah.
I think.
That's
But for it
if
to
you
be even
go on drop rate too.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. A 1 in 200, I think that's more than fair, or like more than difficult enough. But it's even harder than that. So like, if you want to really get these rewards, you just got to straight up buy the reward from someone for 2 bill and take the hit.
But wait, didn't you just say they're not tradable though?
The core isn't tradable, but the
Oh,
updated item is.
That
oh
doesn't make
wow.
any
Okay.
sense.
Exactly. So now you're going to be stuck with the upgraded version and the base version that you already have.
Nice.
Yeah, to me, I
Okay.
think the individual piece should be buyable, and the upgraded piece shouldn't be
Yeah.
Have
buyable.
they said anything like they might change it in the future or
No.
I don't
'Cause-
think enough people are complaining enough yet.
yeah.
all right, and moving on from Wildy Flash events, we have the multi-account support in JX Launcher. This was what I was talking about before, with the
Huge.
JX Launcher allowing you to save multiple accounts and just click play and play on all the ones you want. I think it's wonderful. I love this update.
Mhm. Same.
Not a lot to say on that one. The Civil War mini quest 1 and 2. My only thing I really want to say about this is it kind of combined the Wildy Flash events with lore and kind of tied it back into the Daughter of Chaos and the Succession quest. I thought it was a cool idea that they added these mini quests, but my only issue with them was one. If I remember right, one of them required you to do like 5 events
I
or
think it was
something.
the second one.
Yeah, you had to do like 5 of the Wildy Flash events, and it came out the same day as the Wildy Flash events, so you weren't able to like do it like start the mini quest right away. You had to sit there and wait for 5 hours for all 5 of the events to go by and do all of them just so you could do the mini quest, which seemed just kind of weird. Why you couldn't just do one and then jump into it, but I don't know. I guess that's just for the release of it. It's nitpicky, but afterwards it kind of shouldn't affect anybody else. Just looking forward, I hope JX doesn't do that again. Puts in like a weird soft like cap on how soon you can start the quests.
What do you think about these mini quests basically being get this achievement and we'll have a little bit of dialogue?
Yeah, I, I, again, I guess I don't like the way they put it out. The fact that it's just if you've done the achievement, it's just talk to the person. I like that there's lore. I like that
Yeah.
there's a little mini story there, but I wish it was something separate from just getting the achievement outside of the quest. It should be mini quest within like that mini quest. It shouldn't be something you do outside there and then just get a dialogue box.
Yeah, some of those mini quests are like 2 minutes long. It's
Yep.
like you talk to the NPC in the wilderness, and then you go through like a memory dialogue, and then it's like over.
Yep. And between there they'll say something like, "Hey, go kill 144 demons." Oh, I've already got that achievement. All right, well then we'll just give you the next dialogue box and you're done. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
you could have just had me go out and kill 5 demons and like do the little side story instead of tying it into an achievement that's already in the game. But I don't know. I think that's a pretty fair critique to bring up. Moving on into November, month 11, we had the Garden of Carid. And so this brought in the removal of boss drops for, sorry, I should say herb drops from bosses, patches no longer being diseased, and the ability to plant up to 10 seeds, herb seeds at once into a location for, I believe, up to 3 times the amount of herbs from a patch at any given time. So this is Jagex moving along and removing some of the giving skillers a way to make money or to produce the materials and taking it away from drop logs, which I think is a very, very nice bonus. I know a lot of us here are skillers. We like doing skills, so it's nice to see that we're the ones that are creating the herbs for the potions instead of people just going killing a boss, getting thousands of herbs and banking them. Tony, how many herbs do you have like from doing Hellweir and stuff?
I have 15,000 Lantidimes.
Well, that's at 15,000 Lantidimes.
Like hell, but Hellweir was probably the one boss that, aside from like his other drops, he was like the only one I think who actually dropped like a huge pile of like other bosses drop like dwarf weeds or avantoes, but like it's not the same. Like it's not that amount. Like I think Vindicta used to drop maybe like 15 or 20 herbs or whatever. Or maybe it was 45. I think Araxor has like a 45 dwarf weed and avantoe drop, but nothing was ever close to like 90, grimy lantidimes in a single drop. Granted, like Hellweir doesn't really take too long to kill, so you could get that drop 6 times in an hour and have well over 500 herbs.
Yeah, it's just I'm just glad to see that the seeds come from the bosses. The seeds then go to a skiller, or maybe it stays with the boss. But essentially, the bosser brings in the seeds. The seeds go to a skiller. The skiller produces the ingredients. The ingredients then go back out to the bossers who can make their potions or buy the potions from the skillers and go back to bossing where there's like an ecosystem to this. Where
So
it
you
isn't
work for me.
what?
I said, so you work for me.
Yes, I'm okay with that. Instead of you just being like, oh, I don't need anybody else in this game, I can just do it all myself because everything just kind of comes out. Like
Yeah.
you have to have a well-rounded account to do everything, and I think that's
Oh yeah.
appropriate. So I'm glad. I want to see more changes like this. Instead of doing full-on skill reworks, I don't have an issue if we see smaller updates like this that kind of recontextualize the way skills happen. Like
Yeah, they kind of did that with the mining and smithing rework.
Yep.
Touched it up.
All right, and alongside the Garden of Carid, we also got the addition of some new thieving methods inside the garden. They added the knights, and I'm trying to remember the other type of
Just the
Druid?
druids.
the
Just
druids.
Right.
They drop the seeds, but they also drop rune crafting items, which increase the yield of runes that you craft when you go when you use your essence at different altars, whether that be elemental or catalyst. So
Yeah.
if you're
Other
doing rune
thieving
crafting,
changes.
it's nice to grab some of these enhancers.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember what the name of those items are?
the catalytic anima stone and the elemental anima stone.
Those. Get those if you're gonna go rune crafting.
Yeah.
And then there's also a teleport, or there's 2 teleport seeds. One's permanent and one's a usable single use.
Yep.
And I think in the time that we did September, I got 2 of the permanent drops.
Oh, did you? Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the thieving changes, the thieving method, the knights, was at one point I think like 1.3 million experience an hour. Thieving from those knights. That eventually got nerfed down to, what is it now, like 700 or something?
I think it's about 800k according to Wiki.
Alright, 800,000 experience an hour. If you have all the buffs to make sure that you're not getting caught. But that's still really good.
Yeah, but it's high end stuff too. Like kind of like you need the master camouflage outfit. Like you're more than likely gonna be 99 by the time you get that. Gloves of silence, like Artie cloak, like tier 4 aura. Like it takes a lot to like not fail at them.
Yes, but if you're someone who's going for a 120 or a 200 mil, like this is a pretty decent 5 minute at a time AFK method. Because you essentially need to use the mask of what is that, Saren Mask spell from the Saren Prayers, or from the Saren Mage book, and then the Saren Prayer that buffs that mask. So you get like 5 minutes of not failing before you have to reactivate the spell. So
I was gonna add this just quick with the stones that you were saying. I think they kind of needed to add those into the game because I don't know if you guys know this, but with the new fractured staff of Armadillo too, like when you crit and it automatically fires an auto attack, it always uses the runes too. Like if you're not if you're not um activating like your rack and rune ability once you have like the 5 stacks on one of the spells it is, like you don't actually consume I think runes once you get to like the highest stacks, but with the staff, every time you crit and you fire an auto attack, it automatically consumes those runes. So like it people are going through like water runes and like blood runes like crazy because of how many times you're critting and auto attacking. Like it just depletes your runes like super fast. So I think those stones kind of help with that.
That's an interesting.
I didn't know if you guys knew that.
No, I did not know that. That's interesting information. That helps. Moving along in November, we had the new bank boosters. I know Tony, you said you went and purchased those. You needed some new bank space.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm all for bank boosters. My bank is constantly at max and getting rid of stuff that I don't need. So the more bank space.
Sorry, it's been a long time since we had bank boost upgrade too. So that's about time for me.
Yeah. Right. Also in the patch notes, we have Dragon Weapon Special Attack upgrade, which this was a really big buff to melee combat, but Dragon Weapons now have had buffs to, I think, pretty much every single Dragon Weapon, making them now scale with the combat level of the weapon you're using. So if you're using something like a scythe and you're using the Dragon Halberd special or the Dragon Longsword special or something, it's going to be buffed up to that tier 80. And that's created some entirely new melee combinations that people can do, including the two-hander special being used in Shattered Worlds to at one point get some of the best XP rates in the game for melee. That event.
I've seen people use it at rots too. Depending on the rotation of the Barrels brothers, like I've seen content creators on YouTube get like 4-second rot kill times because all the Barrels brothers will pile up on them, and with the power creep that this game has had in the last few years, like I think it's the Dragon two-hander spec that they use in the EOF, and it just murders them.
Yep. So yeah, a lot of new items to throw in your EOF. I'm not the best when it comes to combat, but there's definitely guides out there that could help you. I know the Dragon two-hander is especially powerful one that you might want to look into. Also in the patch notes for November, we got the strike worms are available to kill off task, which again, fresh Star Worlds people are super happy about that, being able to get your Slayer helmet upgraded without having to get all these strike worm tasks. I don't know how it feels for Iron Man. I assume that's probably a really nice buff for you as well.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice because I remember I think it was 95 Slayer on my Iron Man when I finally got the Hex Crest, I think it is, the one from the Jungle Strike Worms, and I was still doing tasks from the lady in the desert, Simona.
Simona.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Simona.
I was still doing tasks from her when I should have been doing stuff from Prif. So yeah, the the ability to kill them off task is really nice to see that. So
That would have helped me when I elked my Slayer helm by accident
Yep.
instead of having to play Shadow Worlds for the mask.
All right, and to finish off November, we saw the third Civil War mini quest. We don't need to really jump into that. And
Well, it
moving,
did tie into Garden of Carid, so
yeah, that's true. It did tie into the Garden of Carid, so that required you to get some of the upgrades from training herb lord, or sorry, herb growing herbs there, and getting some of those herb upgrades that unlocked the mission in Civil War 3. So
for some reason.
yeah, to be honest, I don't even really remember how that tied in. It wasn't. I don't feel like the Civil War quest was all that important to the story.
True. I think it was the whole Garden of Carid is there because of like the anima or something.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right, moving into December, we get the return of the Advent calendar. For anyone who does not know, there's a secret in the Advent calendar, a 0th day. If you go back before 1 and you try to open up the chest, you'll get a free treasure hunter key. Just
oh,
little
nice.
cool free treasure hunter key advice. Tip, whatever you want to call it. The Advent calendar. Otherwise, each day of the year up until Christmas, you can open up and get a new prize. Most of the time, it's like stars or silver hawk feathers or something, but it's a nice little reward. The Succession quest. So this quest focuses on helping Adrastea defend Saradominus territory from Bilrak and his army that he has established during the Daughter of Chaos quest. Now that Saradomin and Zamorak have been banished, Adrastea is now in charge of Saradomin's army, and she's trying to make a point that she can protect everybody. So she sends you to prove that she's strong enough to protect everybody by having you protect everybody from the Zamarakian army. I didn't understand how that works, but I guess by allying with us, she proves that she's capable. But
He's a good leader.
I guess. But you basically travel with her to Centiston, Menaphos, in the wilderness to find out what Bill Ratch is up to. And you find out that he's going to use the knowledge that the what is his name? The not ambassador. Who's the guy?
Magister.
The
Magister.
Magister. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Magister's knowledge about souls and soul runes and the ritual marker to siphon souls from humans, and basically use that along with the ritual of rejuvenation to empower himself to essentially become a new god. And you, along with Adrastea, sabotage the ritual marker and cause it to blow up in his face and make him look like a complete idiot in front of all his troops. This causes Moya to basically show up and say, haha, you're a dumbass. And basically, Bilrak and Zamorgel call her a half-breed. She goes all Darth Vader and Jedi mind chokes them and murders Bilrak while we get to listen to the longest, most annoying song in the world from Adrastea as she's talking to the Kingdom of Falador about how great a leader she's gonna be, and it's a long unskippable cutscene, and I hated it. I love the story, but I hated not being able to skip like the what felt like a 20-minute long cutscene. But that rewards you with a new bladed dive upgrade or downgrade. It essentially allows you to bladed dive when you don't have a weapon, but it doesn't do any damage. So gives you more movement ability alongside Surge.
Yeah, it helps people who maging and range or whatever, like so they don't bring like a dual wield swap for these bosses where mobility helps. Just less switchscape.
That's fair. I'm okay with reducing switchscape however they need to do it.
Yep.
But as for the story, I think it was a really cool story, and the name, the quest succession, it's obviously Moya following in Zamorak's footsteps, taking over his army from Bilratch, and Adrastea following in her father's footsteps of Saradomin and taking over his army. So we just have the new generation of gods essentially stepping up to the plate, which is gonna obviously lead us. We learn kind of we see from what Bilrak was studying. I don't know how many people noticed this when they did the quest, but there's a lot of talk of siphoning souls and talking to dead and necromancy talk in that quest.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very obvious kind of reference to the new skill that we're going to be getting next year. So it'll be interesting to see how it ties in, but overall, I enjoyed the quest. I liked the story it was doing. Just don't make me have to listen to a 20-minute song that I can't just skip. Just give me the option to skip cutscenes like that. Or at least spacebar through it. You couldn't even hold the spacebar. You had to just sit and watch the camera pan. I didn't like it. Anyone else?
Apparently, logging out didn't skip it either, so don't try it.
Yeah, don't try it.
Yeah, we had
I thought of that.
Rune Star tried skipping it by
Oh.
logging out. It didn't work.
And I couldn't log in for
again.
like another 3-4 minutes, and then I had to watch it all over again.
Yeah, so yeah, it'll make it play through the entire thing while you're offline, and then make you watch it again. So you'll waste a lot of time. Anyone else have their own experiences with that quest that they want to talk about? All right. Finally, last thing of the year, the Yak Track that's currently going on. Final Yak Track of the year. This one has another change, so I think it's like the third change in a row that we've gotten. This one, they've added the Yak token to it, and the Yak tokens can be used to purchase previous Yak Track rewards, along with like specialty Yak Track rewards that weren't actually on any of the tracks, but they're extra expensive ones that require upwards of like 15 tokens to get, and you get a token every like 5 tasks you complete. So if you want to get those, you need to finish the task, and then once you've done all 50, every time you complete a new task, you get another token. So if you want to farm tokens, finish that Yak Track as soon as possible. But I think that's gonna conclude it for the year in review. The only thing I want to go through and get, why doesn't everyone give us like their top 3 or their top 5 uh, their favorite updates of the year? We'll start with Tony. Why don't you tell us your 5 or 3 or whatever you want to give us? Just give me your top updates.
I think the bossing aspect of it, like the Elder God Wars. I liked the new fletching and fire making skilling area, and probably the way that they're making quests more rewarding when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to like PVM aspect, I guess.
Oh, like the Ring of Vigor and stuff like that.
Yeah, like they're getting away a little bit from the less switchscape, and I like that.
All right. Let's go with RuneStar. What is your some of your favorite updates?
I'd say number 1 would be Fresh Start. That was honestly a big part of my year. It like I put all of my effort into it from what I could.
Yep.
Personal life kind of stopped me right away, but then we got going, and it was pretty fun. Then I'd say the wilderness rework, and then with that, the reward from the quests relating to that with the infernal puzzle box.
Okay, yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Kelly, what were some of your favorites?
That we could dungeoneer together.
Group Dunge?
Always, my number one. But there's also like a really, really, really ridiculous tiny update that the leprechaun at the troll place, like you couldn't right click note herbs, but now you can. And that
Oh
made
my,
my life.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to use the herb with the little leprechaun, and I noticed just recently, like it just was updated that you can now right click note. So I know that's really silly, but I was really happy about that. Those were my favorite. Those two little things.
No problem with that. That's actually I'm glad that there was something that we didn't even mention that you were able to bring up. That's really cool. Uh, okay, Spider. What's a couple of your favorites?
I'm gonna have to say the Jagex launcher is a huge update for me this year. I use it every day since the patch where you can launch multiple accounts from the same thing. So I think that's a really big top one for me. It's not like game changing, but it's the fact that I use it every single day. Uh, Ironman updates, meaning like we can group dungeons together, we can group boss together. That I think is another high end one for me because I main Iron Man, so being able to dungeon boss with my friends is very nice. Uh, Combat updates such as like the solo ability of Virago and Solak and just adjustments for like the Ring of Vigor and making Switchscape less is another high tier one for me. I love the fact they changed the wilderness to not PvP. PvP was basically dead in RS3. People that were in the wilderness just trying to do skills or Slayer were always griefed by people who were doing PvP. And the fact that you can opt out of it is a huge benefit, I think, to most of the community that wasn't trying to kill people to grief them. And then the last is just the Garden of Carid and the little thieving updates to that makes it so you can like auto pickpocket and the along with the loot table drop for the herbs and how that affects the market. I think is a pretty big adjustment as well. So that's like my top 5, which
All
is
right.
like half the year. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, mine. I think everyone's mentioned at least one of mine on my list, but I'm definitely gonna start with the probably my fifth favorite is got to be the was it the tradable extreme potions,
mm,
and I'm gonna combine that with the even though they didn't come out at the same time, the Garden of Carid, because they kind of go hand in hand to me. That
yeah.
being able to trade those potions, but also making it so that the drop changes are more focused on skillers bringing those potions into the game. I think those two things together really like hammer home this idea of like skill, like differentiating bossing from skilling. Um, I got to go with the for number 4, wilderness rework. I hated going to the wilderness. I hated being griefed. I wanted like there's so many times I wanted to go and kill like a strike worm, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd get griefed I'd get 10 kills and I'd get jumped and it would be the most annoying thing. So I never wanted to make my own potions because I'd have to deal with that. So wilderness rework is my number 4. Number 3, the Jagex launcher. I use that all the time. I love it. And for what they sound like they want to do in the future, connecting more accounts to it and stuff like that. I'm all for seeing changes to that make it even better, but it's already in a wonderful place. So I'm thankful for the multi accounts on that. Number 2, the different. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna put it in the Abyssal Demon rework, but more so the focus on melee being bleeds, magic being its own like crit style, and range having more of like an adrenaline focus. I like that the combat styles don't feel like they're all the same. They all feel like they have their own unique place and are good for different things. So I'm gonna put that there. And then Fresh Start Worlds is probably my favorite update. I mean, like I said, this podcast probably wouldn't exist if it weren't for the Fresh Start Worlds controversy. So I'm appreciative of that. But I, I still gotta give a shout out to the group Iron Man Dunge though, because I know once Fresh Start Worlds are done, I'm gonna be playing so much Iron Man. I'm gonna be wanting to do Dungeoneering with everybody so much. So I just gotta put that as kind of like a 5.5. All right, but with that, I think we're going to conclude. This has been a pretty long episode, but this has been a pretty impactful year. On a scale of like 1 to 10, what's everyone's kind of like grade for the year? I'll start. I'm going to give this as like an 8. I think this is a real solid 8. If there had been a new skill, it'd have been a 10. But I think
Yeah,
there's been a lot of really good things that have come out, and I like the direction they're heading. Tony?
yeah, I'd probably say like an 8 or 9. Like I'm pretty pleased with everything that they've come out with as far as like things that interest me.
Runester?
I'd probably put it more to 9. I don't think they could have released a skill this year
I
with
know.
everything else they released. That would have been, I think that would have been overwhelming even for the player base. But
That's true.
yeah, I'll give it a 9.
Kelly?
Probably go 7.
That's still high though. That's
Okay.
better than
Yeah,
average.
that's
So
high. Why'd
that's
you
still
make
high.
that noise? That's pretty high.
I can still play football.
Friggin' A.
So what could they have done to get a 9 or a 10 out of you?
I don't know. It just wasn't one of my favorite years at Escape. That's all. It's nothing that they did wrong. It's just I think I'm indifferent to the fact that I want new skills every single year. That's just how I roll. So
That's fair. Like I'm looking forward to new skills
I'm
too.
a little selfish in that way, and I can admit that. But I think it was okay. I wasn't a fan of the quests either this year. They don't. I'm not a like I don't like the God series, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Oh, that's I know a lot of people that really don't like it. So
Yeah.
You must be one of them godless.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. But it was okay.
and Spider, what do you give it out of skill 1 to 10?
This is a 10 for me, honestly. When I went back and read through the year and how many major updates they made, and just like to benefit the player, just it, I think it was a really good year as far as RuneScape goes. And also thinking back, as I think it was RuneStar mentioned it earlier, is like they lost a lot of their good mods this year. Uh, their J mods were leaving, or were I don't know if they fired them or what was going on, but there's big changes happening in Jagex, and they still pulled out a really solid year as far as like content, uh, quality of life update changes in the game. Just I think they did a really good job. This is a solid 10 for me. I agree with RuneStar, where I don't think they could have really squeezed in a whole new skill in the middle of this.
No, it would
With
have probably
all,
been poorly developed.
yeah, I mean we got a Grandmaster quest, a freaking almost like a raid level boss, the
New
Jagex
God Wars.
launcher, new God Wars was last year, oddly enough. But the
Well, I mean, some of it was last year. I think Carapac was last year, wasn't it?
they
It
most
was
of it last
all
Mhm.
year.
4 were last year. The only thing was Zamorak was this year.
I think When came out in
Oh,
December last year, so it was like right at the end of last year. So, but like they just did a pretty phenomenal job. I think there's some tweaks that can be made to what the updates they've pushed out. Like you said, the rarity on the Wilderness Flash events, special item, but w- that beyond like little tweaks and changes that can be made, just the general,
That
appealing to the player was very good this year. I think.
And speaking of appealing to the player, I'm adding one more thing to my list, even though I already went over 5. The removal of the duel arena to start the year.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Hetz Oasis was the most fun thing in the world. Even when I went and replayed it, it was okay for mid-level content. But just the concept of, hey, we're really looking into fighting real-world trading, believe us, like, that had to have cost them money to remove the duel arena.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the dual arena has probably not been used, like its intention when it was released probably hasn't been used like that for like a long time.
Oh no, but I mean, just like I guarantee they were making money off of those transactions going around with the gold, like the gold being transferred around and people buying bonds so that they could get gold. But they were still willing to be like, hey, this is bad for the game. Let's get rid of it. I respect that. So I do want to point that out. Like, I really like the fact that they're fighting like real world trading and just like people who like we don't need in the community. So, but
For
with
sure.
that, it shows this episode's been going on for well over 2 hours. I think it's time for us to call it for the night. I hope you guys all have a wonderful new year. Happy holidays to everyone, and I hope you join us in 2023 for another wonderful year of RuneScape and RuneScape related content. Everybody have a wonderful day. See you later.
Happy New Year.
Later.
Yep.